Captain Lyraven stood on the shattered bridge of the Oran's Promise, watching the orbital defense grid burn out one satellite at a time. The worm host's tendrils, living chains of biomechanical matter, slithered across the void, turning fleets into ash and circuitry. Her crew no longer screamed. They had grown quiet, the way prey does when it knows the shadow is too large to fight. Signal strength down to 3%, reported Navigator Rass, voice hoarse. The swarm's jamming fields are everywhere. We won't reach command. Lyraven's bioluminescent markings pulsed dimly against the flickering holographic display. Keep transmitting, she said softly. Someone has to hear. There's no one left to hear, Captain, Rass murmured. Lyra ignored the despair. She reached out, adjusting the distress frequency herself, a pulse of light through the endless dark. Once, this frequency had linked the great coalition of free worlds. The Kethri League, the Vrak Dominion, the Trine Concord. Now, only static replied. Each world, one by one, had fallen silent beneath the crawling storm of metal. Her hand trembled over the console. Broadcast the longwave beacon, Sector 0338, fallback relay. Encrypt under code Solace. Rass hesitated. Captain, that relay's ancient. Pre-Union era. It might not even. Do it, she said. The order went out. A narrow-band signal, weak, fractured, and filled with static, pierced the galactic dark like a final candle in the storm. Hours passed. The ship trembled under impacts. The main reactor failed. The Oran's Promise drifted through debris fields that glowed faintly with radioactive dust. Crew members whispered prayers to forgotten gods. And then, the static shifted. A single tone echoed across the comm array. Low. Metallic. Rhythmic. Ping, ping, ping. Lyraven's eyes widened. What is that? Rass stared at his console. Not Wormhost. Not any known signature. He paused, voice shaking. Captain, it's responding. Responding to what? To us. Lyraven leaned forward. On the tactical map, deep beneath the starfield overlay, a pulse of blue light flickered, far, far away. Beyond the galactic rim. Old coordinates no one used anymore. Identify the origin, she demanded. Rass worked furiously. Triangulating. Oh, void preserve us. It's from a dead sector. No colonies. No trade. The signal's coming from Sol. Lyra whispered the word like it was a ghost. That system hasn't been charted in over 3,000 years. Then who the hell is answering? Across the ruined sector, the wormhost surged. A planet below split open under their feeding towers, cities dissolving into molten rivers of alloy and bone. But above, the faint reply from Sol grew stronger, clearer. It was an old code, archaic Terran encryption, bursting through the interference like thunder. Priority override. Terran Defense Network activated. Signal received. Coordinates locked. Response en route. Rass recoiled. Defense Network? Terran? That's impossible. Humanity's been gone for millennia. Lyra stared at the readout. Her heart pounded against her chest. Maybe not gone. But they vanished before the Union was even formed. My grandmother used to tell stories, how they left the galaxy to the younger races, after some great war. They were myths, Rass. Stories told to frighten us. The navigator looked up, pale. Then what just answered us? The signal intensified. The blue pulse became a wave, rippling across subspace bands, shaking every sensor relay in the sector. Dozens of ships across the Kethri remnants picked it up simultaneously. Commanders, refugees, even scavengers, all heard the same voice repeating in Terran Standard, a language no living species still spoke. This is Terran Automated Response Beacon 0, a distress signal received. Authorization confirmed. Assistance inbound. The bridge fell silent. Lyraven's markings flickered brighter, reacting instinctively to her rising heartbeat. Assistance? From who? There's nothing left out there. But deep inside her, a tiny ember of something long forgotten, Hope stirred. Days later, the remains of the coalition gathered around Kether's dying star. Their fleets were ragged things, ships held together by willpower and faith. Every moment was a countdown to extinction. Admiral Crathun appeared on Lyraven's holoscreen, his scaled features grim. "Captain, your beacon stunt drew Wormhost attention. Their main horde is inbound. You've doomed us all." "Maybe not," she said. Crathun snorted. "You think ghosts from the mythical human homeworld will save you?" "I think," Lyra said evenly, "something old just woke up." Before Crathun could reply, the sensors screamed. A gravitational spike registered, massive, unnatural, precise. Not a Wormhost jump. Not any known drive signature. And then, one by one, stars began to vanish. No shift. Warped behind gravitational shadows. The void itself rippled, bending like a curtain. Ras whispered, "Multiple warp anomalies. Dozens, no, hundreds." Crathun froze mid-transmission. "What is that?" Lyraven rose to her feet. "They're here." The night over Kether ignited. 1,000 points of blue light tore open across the darkness, each one flaring like a newborn sun. From those rifts, ships emerged, vast, angular, black as obsidian. No banners. No transmissions. Only the cold hum of synchronized engines. Their hulls gleamed with faint azure veins, like the blood of a sleeping titan stirring after ages of silence. The largest ship, the one at the heart of the formation, cast a shadow across the planet below. Its name burned in ancient Terran script. "Ienes Vengeance of Soul." Rasa's voice broke. "Gods preserve us." Lyraven stared at the incoming readings, tonnage off the scale, weapons arrays beyond comprehension, energy signatures that made the Wormhost look primitive. Then, through every comm channel in the system, a single transmission cut through the chaos, calm, steady, human. "This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Defense Armada. You called. We came." The words echoed like prophecy. Silence consumed the bridge. The alien crews aboard dozens of crippled ships wept openly, unable to believe what they'd heard. Humanity, the humans, were real. And they had answered a signal never meant for them. Lyraven sank slowly into her chair, trembling. "All this time," she whispered. "They never left." Ras looked at her, eyes wide. "Captain, what do we do?" She smiled through tears. "We hold position. And watch." Outside, the human fleet began to unfold its formation, thousands of ships aligning with terrifying precision. The darkness that had consumed the galaxy for centuries had finally met something older, colder, and infinitely more resolute. The galaxy had cried for help. And humanity, silent for 3,000 years, had finally answered. The Ienes Vengeance of Soul hung in orbit above Kether's burning moon, its black armor absorbing the light of a dying star. Around it, 1,000 Terran vessels formed into flawless concentric lines, an armada so disciplined that even the automated sensors of the alien fleet mistook them for a single, living entity. From her damaged bridge aboard the Oran's Promise, Captain Lyraven stared at the formation in breathless silence. No transmissions, no movement, no demands. Just the quiet presence of ships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had built in 10,000 years. Her navigator, Ras, whispered, They're not responding to our hails. Not even to a handshake code." "They don't have to," Lyra murmured. "They already know everything they need." Across the network, confusion spread through the scattered alien flotillas. Admiral Crathun's command ship, the Blade of Var, edged closer to the human formation, ignoring Lyra's warnings. His pride refused to yield to ghosts. "Terran fleet, this is Admiral Crathun of the Kethri Coalition." He barked through open frequencies. "Identify your intentions immediately or be considered hostile." For a long moment, there was no reply. Then, through every open channel, a simple phrase emerged, clear, calm, unmistakably human. "Maintain position, Kethri vessels. Terran operations in progress." Crathun's scaled fist slammed his console. Operations? In our space. Lyraven flinched as his ships began charging weapons. Admiral, stand down. You don't understand what you're provoking. They're relics, Captain, Craythun growled. Their age will make them slow. The human fleet moved. Not fast. Not chaotic. But deliberate, like a single vast creature shifting in its sleep. Hundreds of black hulls rotated into a new alignment, engines humming with pale blue radiance. Orbital vectors recalculated across dozens of planets simultaneously. Craythun's fleet froze in place as their targeting locks failed one after another. The humans hadn't fired. They had simply turned their attention. And the galaxy blinked. Every system within 2 light minutes went dark. The worm-host swarm, descending through the upper atmosphere, suddenly fractured as a shimmering barrier formed in orbit, a lattice of blue-white energy stretching between Terran ships like a spider's web of light. Ras gasped. What is that? It's enveloping the planet. An orbital shield, Lyra whispered, awestruck. They're defending us. Inside the Vengeance of Sol, Admiral Reyes stood before a holographic display of the entire sector. He was tall, severe, his dark uniform unmarked except for the Terran insignia on his chest, a faded Earth surrounded by 13 silver stars. Around him, crew members worked in absolute silence, their motions synchronized by centuries of discipline and augmented reflex. Status of the worm host? He asked. 15 major clusters approaching. Sublight vectors confirmed. Estimated contact. 4 minutes, replied a lieutenant. Deploy forward battle groups 1 through 5, Reyes ordered. Engage at will, kinetic priority. No orbital discharge near civilian structures. The officer hesitated. Sir, we're detecting alien ships inside the defense perimeter. Reyes's tone didn't change. Then they're under our protection. Maintain formation. From her viewport, Lyra watched as thousands of smaller Terran vessels detached from the main Armada, sharp, dagger-like frigates accelerating with unnatural speed. Trails of blue ion light crossed the sky as they dove toward the wormhost infestation. The first impact came silently. A flash, brilliant, contained, and a wormhost leviathan the size of a city fractured into shards. The second came moments later, then 100 more. Each strike was a calculated, precise kill, kinetic rods impacting at relativistic speeds. No waste. No spectacle. By the stars, Ras whispered. They're using solid projectiles? No plasma, no antimatter, just metal. Metal at near-light velocity, Lyra said softly. Simple. Brutal. Unstoppable. Craythun's voice cut through the comms, trembling with disbelief. They're annihilating the swarm, every strike a direct hit. How can they aim? They're humans, Lyra replied. They never shoot to miss. The alien admiral said nothing more. Within minutes, the worm-host offensive collapsed. The survivors tried to retreat, their hive links breaking under heavy disruption. But the human fleet pursued, not for vengeance, but with surgical precision. They cut down only the active swarms, leaving derelict vessels intact for rescue. Lyra could feel it, their intention. Cold, disciplined compassion. The kind only born from centuries of war and regret. Then, suddenly, her ship's comm array flickered to life. A secure channel opened, encrypted in an ancient code she didn't recognize. The signal pulsed once before stabilizing. Kethri vessel Orin's promise. This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Defense Armada. Captain Lyraven, your signal was received. Lyra froze. He knows my name. Your transmission carried embedded biometric data. We analyzed your crew's stress signatures and environmental readings. Situation assessment. Imminent extinction event. We are here to prevent that. She swallowed hard. Why? We didn't even mean to call you. For a moment, only the low hum of Terran reactors filled the silence. Then Reyes answered, his voice steady and impossibly human. Because someone asked for help. On the bridge, every alien officer went still. Ras looked at his captain in disbelief. They came just because we asked? Lyra smiled faintly. No empire does that anymore. Reyes's tone softened just barely. Your people are safe for now. Evacuation vessels will arrive soon. Do not approach the combat perimeter. Lyra gathered her courage. Admiral Reyes, the legends said humanity left because they couldn't bear war anymore. Is that true? The channel went quiet for a few seconds that felt like hours. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of centuries. We left because we couldn't bear what war turned us into. And then the transmission cut. Hours later, the human fleet expanded its shield lattice, sealing the sector from further wormhost intrusion. Alien survivors from dozens of worlds stared up at the night sky now illuminated by the pale glow of Terran defense grids. Craythun opened a private link to Lyra. His tone was subdued, stripped of arrogance. I misjudged them. We all did, Lyra said. The myths made them monsters. But maybe they were just tired soldiers. Craythun exhaled, the sound heavy with awe. They fight like the gods we prayed to. No, Lyra corrected softly. They fight like those who remember why we prayed. Above them, the vengeance of Sol turned slowly, aligning its prow toward the stars. Fleet formations shimmered as new orders cascaded through encrypted channels. The humans were not celebrating. They were preparing. Because the wormhost would not stop here, and humanity, once again, had stepped into the fire. As the first Terran dreadnoughts accelerated toward deep space, the void trembled under their passage. The silence before thunder had ended. Now came the storm. The Ketheri system hung beneath a pale blue shield, its fractured moons slowly drifting apart in silence. For the first time in months, the wormhost swarm had been stopped. And yet, peace did not follow. It was replaced by something far more volatile, fear. Captain Lyraven sat on the bridge of the Oran's Promise, eyes fixed on the dark wall of human warships orbiting above. They didn't move like fleets. They flowed, in exact geometric precision, thousands of vessels forming a grid that pulsed with faint azure light. No messages. No diplomacy. Just vigilance. Any word from the Terrans? Asked Ras, voice subdued. Only automated navigation updates, Lyra replied. They're coordinating refugee evacuation routes. Without speaking to us? Lyra's bioluminescent markings dimmed. Maybe they think words aren't necessary. Across the sector, rumors spread like wildfire. The wormhost were gone, but so were dozens of alien scout ships that had tried to approach the Terran Armada without permission. Their signals vanished near the fleet perimeter. No wreckage, no debris, only static. To frighten survivors, it looked like conquest. Admiral Craythun seized on the panic. From the deck of the Blade of Var, he broadcast across every open frequency. You all saw what they did. No warning, no negotiation. They claim to protect us, but they control our orbit. We've traded one enemy for another. Lyraven watched the speech unfold, horrified. He's going to start a war we can't survive. Should we counter his transmission? Ras asked. She shook her head. The Terrans will hear it. Let them decide how to respond. They didn't wait long. A faint ripple crossed the stars. No weapon fire, no visible beam, just a low resonance that made the hull of every ship vibrate. Craythun's broadcast cut out mid-sentence. His transmission array melted into slag. Seconds later, a new signal filled the channels. Calm, clipped, and unmistakably human. Terran priority transmission. Cease unauthorized broadcast. Your fleet is inside a designated humanitarian protection zone. Aggression will not be tolerated. Craythun roared back, furious, forcing a manual uplink. You don't command us, humans. This is our system. Correction, came Admiral Reyes's voice, smooth as a scalpel. This is a war zone. You requested aid. Until it is secure, it is under Terran defense jurisdiction. The alien admiral's jaw tightened. And when you're finished, you'll leave? Reyes paused. We always leave. The transmission ended. Lyraven exhaled slowly. That was mercy. Mercy, Ras said incredulously. He just silenced the most powerful admiral in the sector without firing a shot. That's exactly why it was mercy, she murmured. He could have done far worse. But not everyone shared her understanding. Hours later, Krathun's pride burned hotter than his fear. His flagship, the Blade of Var, began rearming, missile bays humming, energy capacitors charging. He's lost his mind, Ras whispered. He's going to provoke them. Lyraven opened a private channel. Admiral, stand down. This isn't a fight we can win. Krathun's face appeared, scales glistening with sweat. You think I'll kneel to another species? To ghosts from our myths? I will not die a servant. Before she could respond, his fleet surged forward, 6 cruisers and a dozen escorts accelerating toward the human wall. Inside the Vengeance of Sol, Admiral Reyes watched the incoming signatures with unreadable eyes. His officers stood ready at their stations, the bridge illuminated by pale tactical light. Non-compliant vessels approaching, reported a lieutenant. Weapons charging. ID. Cathari Coalition marks. Flagship Blade of Var in the lead. Reyes nodded once. Intercept. Disable only. No fatalities. Understood. In orbit, space itself seemed to fold. A Terran formation detached from the main fleet, 100 ships moving as one. The air shimmered with the distortion of kinetic fields charging. Before the Cathari fleet could fire, the humans acted. A flash of blue light, silent and precise. And every alien weapon system powered down. Missile racks jammed. Reactor safeties locked. Targeting arrays went blind. The Blade of Var spun helplessly, engines throttled to minimum by external override. Krathun screamed orders that his ship no longer obeyed. Impossible, he growled, slamming his console. They've hijacked our systems. On the Oran's promise, Lyraven whispered, No, Admiral. They've contained you. A new voice filled the comm network. It was Admiral Reyes, calm, patient, but edged with something cold enough to freeze stars. Admiral Krathun of the Cathari Coalition. You fired weapons in a Terran humanitarian zone. Your fleet has been rendered non-functional to prevent escalation. Krathun spat. You had no right. We had cause, Reyes interrupted. You mistake control for safety. We do not seek dominion, but stability. We do not conquer. We contain. He let the silence hang, then added softly. We remember what happens when we don't. Krathun said nothing. Around him, his officers stared in mute terror as the human fleet reabsorbed its interceptor wing, the black ships sliding back into perfect alignment like shadows returning to the void. When the channels cleared, Lyraven sat motionless. Ras broke the silence. Do you still think they came to help us? Yes, she said. But not us alone. What do you mean? She turned to face him, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Look at the precision. The coordination. They've fought things like the Wormhost before. This isn't rescue, it's containment on a galactic scale. Asterisk, they're making sure it never spreads. Ras shivered. Then why not just wipe it all out? Because, she said quietly, that's what they did the last time. And maybe they swore never to do it again. Hours later, the Terran Armada began deploying massive constructs, monolithic black pylons descending toward the planet's surface. The air rippled as gravitational stabilizers ignited, sealing off orbital debris fields and neutralizing stray Wormhost fragments. Lyraven watched entranced. They're rebuilding containment architecture. Not for conquest, for quarantine. Ras frowned. For who? The swarm's gone. Not all of it, she said softly. And not just the swarm. Far away, in the command center of the Vengeance of Sol, Admiral Reyes stood alone before a display showing the galaxy's spiral arms. Red flares marked infestation zones. Yellow marked neutral territories. Blue, the few regions still secure. Sir, said his first officer. Do we engage Phase 2? Reyes stared at the map for a long moment before answering. Not yet. Let them think it's Mercy. He turned toward the viewport, where the remnants of alien fleets drifted in stunned silence below. Mercy, he repeated under his breath. They'll learn what it truly costs soon enough. Back aboard the Oran's Promise, Lyra Ven gazed at the Terran ships and felt an emotion she hadn't known since childhood, awe mixed with dread. Humanity had returned. They'd come not as conquerors, nor as saviors. They'd come as shepherds of extinction, bearing mercy sharper than any blade. And above the quiet stars, the fleet of Sol watched, unmoving, patient, waiting. For the next signal. For the next cry for help. For the next reason to return. For 3 days, the galaxy held its breath. The Terran Defense Armada remained perfectly still in orbit above Kether's reach, a dark silhouette of order against the burned sky. Below, alien fleets waited, afraid to speak, afraid even to breathe too loudly lest they awaken the sleeping storm above them. Then the worm host returned. It began as a ripple on long-range sensors, faint distortions in subspace, then gravitational echoes. Ras leaned over the console. Captain, we've got incoming signatures. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Lyra Ven's blood ran cold. Direction. Everywhere. The hollow display flickered, painting the sky with red. The worm host hive hadn't retreated, it had regrouped. The swarm was coming back, larger than ever, converging from the outer system like a tidal wave of living metal. And this time, it wasn't just drones. There were mothers among them, planet-sized birthing cores trailing ribbons of fused bone and steel. They're targeting the Terrans first, Ras whispered. They've learned. Lyra Ven shook her head slowly. No. They're testing them. On the human flagship Yen's Vengeance of Sol, alarms remained silent. The bridge crew moved with eerie calm, every motion rehearsed, every order measured. Admiral Reyes stood at the center console, gaze fixed on the tactical sphere. Confirm swarm composition, he said quietly. 8 primary hives, replied the sensor officer. Estimated total mass equivalent, 1/10 planetary density. Their approach vectors suggest simultaneous impact trajectories. Reyes nodded once. Engage Black Wall Protocol. The bridge lights dimmed. Warning sigils illuminated along the length of the ship's hull. Terran Fleet Order. Black Wall activation. Stand by. Impact imminent. From every Terran vessel, vast panels extended like unfolding wings. Energy grids crackled, connecting each ship to the next through beams of pure light. Within seconds, a shimmering barrier spanned the entire system, not a shield but a structure forged from physics and fury. The aliens below watched in stunned silence as the sky darkened. What are they doing? Ras stammered. Lyra Ven stared upward, her voice trembling with awe. They're building a wall. A literal wall. The Terran formation formed a hexagonal lattice, every ship locking position with impossible precision. Where the grid closed, space itself seemed to solidify. Stars disappeared behind a curtain of black glass, a void so dense it swallowed light. The black wall was complete. The worm host struck. Their swarm descended like a storm of knives, slamming into the barrier with the force of dying suns. Waves of molten matter splashed against the surface, and evaporated instantly. Every strike, every impact, was met with absolute silence. No explosions, no energy flare, just annihilation. They're not even fighting back, Ras whispered. They don't need to, Lyra said. The wall does the fighting for them. But the worm host adapted. They fused, merged into colossal forms, towering constructs that could crack planets, and began ramming the barrier in unison. Cracks of light spread across the lattice. For the first time, the black wall trembled. On the Vengeance of Sol, Reyes watched the impact points cascade across the tactical grid. Containment integrity at 82%, reported the tactical officer. Enemy fusion mass increasing exponentially. Understood, Reyes said. Deploy hammer units 1 through 3. Across the fleet, vast hangar bays opened. And the hammers fell. Each one was the size of a mountain, kinetic delivery platforms descending through the shield in controlled freefall. Their trajectories intersected the worm-host fusion nodes with surgical accuracy. When they struck, the stars moved. No sound. No blast wave. Just a rippling silence as entire cubic kilometers of space folded inward, then unfolded again, empty. The aliens watching from orbit began to cry. "Captain," Ras whispered, tears running down his cheeks. "They're erasing them. Not killing, not burning, erasing." Lyraven could barely speak. "Physics as a weapon. They're bending the universe back into place." The swarm faltered, collapsing under the impossible precision of Terran countermeasures. But a few worm-host fragments, smaller, faster, slipped past the wall, diving toward the planet below. Before Lyra could even order evasive maneuvers, they were intercepted. Human strike craft, sleek, black interceptors with glowing blue trails, streaked through the atmosphere. Their movements were too fast for the eye to follow, too perfect to be biological. Each one fired microprojectiles at speeds approaching light, vaporizing the fragments before they touched the clouds. When the sky cleared, the interceptors formed up and climbed silently back toward the wall. The last remnants of the wormhost were gone. Krathun's voice came over the comms, hoarse and trembling. "Captain Lyraven, are you seeing this?" "Yes," she said quietly. "I accuse them of conquest," he whispered. "But they're defending everyone. Even us." Lyra looked at the dark horizon of ships encircling the world. "That's what makes them terrifying." Inside the vengeance of Sol, the aftermath was measured in silence. No cheers. No celebration. Only reports. "Swarm neutralized," said the operations officer. "Containment field stable. Casualties, none." Reyes closed his eyes briefly, as if in prayer. Then, "Begin recovery operations. Deploy bioscrub drones and humanitarian aid modules to the surface. Ensure they see it." "Sir." He opened his eyes. "If they only see the wrath, they'll never understand the mercy." Down on Kether's burned surface, the aliens watched as hundreds of Terran relief pods descended through the atmosphere, landing in perfect rows. Drones emerged, metallic angels in silence, distributing food, water, and medical nanites to survivors. They never spoke. They simply helped. Children reached out to touch the machines. The drones knelt. For the first time in generations, the galaxy saw not humanity's power, but their purpose. Lyraven walked among the aid camps, her eyes lifted toward the black sky. They could have demanded tribute, claimed our world. No one could have stopped them. Ras nodded. "Then why didn't they?" "Because they don't want to own the galaxy," she said. "They want to guard it, even from itself." Above them, the Terran fleet shifted, preparing to leave orbit. The black wall disassembled, vanishing into fragments of starlight. And for the first time since their return, the humans sent a message, broadcast across every open frequency in the sector. Wormhost containment complete. No further hostile signatures detected. Terran Defense Armada withdrawing. May your worlds endure. The transmission ended. Lyraven felt her throat tighten. "They're leaving." Ras turned to her. "After saving billions, they're just going?" She smiled faintly, her voice breaking. "They always were ghosts. They arrive, they save, they vanish. Like a storm that passes and leaves the air clean." Above them, the vengeance of Sol led the Armada back into the void. The last light of its engines shimmered across the clouds like dawn. In the silence that followed, Krathun's voice returned on the comms, quiet and reverent. "Captain," he said, "I once called them myths. Now I believe the myths were mercy compared to the truth." Lyraven looked toward the stars, her markings glowing faintly blue. "And what truth is that, Admiral?" "That the gods we feared," he said, "were only human." The stars were quiet again. Days passed since the Terran fleet disappeared beyond the system rim, and with each sunrise, the skies over Kether's reach grew lighter, freer of smoke and ash. Yet every survivor, from the smallest child to the highest admiral, looked upward with a strange longing. They had been saved by monsters of mercy. And no one could quite decide which word fit better. Captain Liraven stood on a repaired observation deck, high above the surface, watching the faint, fading light trails where the humans had gone. Her ship, the once crippled Varen's Promise, had been rebuilt with materials she didn't even recognize. Every corridor gleamed, every circuit hummed like new. Even the air tasted cleaner. "They fixed more than they broke," said Ras, joining her at the viewport. "Even the oceans, they've neutralized the radiation. Their drones are still working months after they left." Lyra didn't answer. She kept her eyes on the stars. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Ras hesitated. "I'm not sure they ever really left." The door opened behind them, revealing Admiral Craython. His face, once hard and reptilian, now carried something gentler. The old warrior who had condemned humanity now looked humbled, smaller in spirit. "We've received a message," he said, holding a thin data crystal. "Encoded in something called SoulNet archive format. Only our science team managed to partially translate it." Lyra took the crystal and slotted it into the hollow emitter. The projection flickered, revealing a man. Human. Dressed in dark uniform, his expression calm but tired. The message was centuries old. "To any who find this record, we are the Terran Defense Armada. We do not conquer, we do not rule. We guard." The image wavered. "Once we walked among the stars freely. We built alliances, shared our technology, fought beside you all. But war taught us what our presence brings. When we defended worlds, they grew dependent. When we shared power, they turned it to destruction. When we withdrew, they called us ghosts, until they needed us again." He paused, gaze steady. "So we learned. Mercy is a blade that cuts both ways. Now we sleep between the stars, not as rulers but as sentinels. When the call goes out, we answer. Once. Only once." The transmission ended. Silence filled the deck. Even the hum of machinery seemed to fade. Lyra swallowed. "They come when they're needed, and then vanish." Craython exhaled slowly. "They protect the galaxy, but they refuse to be part of it." Ras frowned. "That's not protection. That's exile." "Voluntary exile," Lyra murmured. "Because they understand what power does to others. And to themselves." Later, she walked through the reconstruction fields, where human drones still labored quietly, rebuilding cities they would never visit. Each one bore the same inscription on its side, a small emblem, a blue earth surrounded by 7 stars. Underneath, words in ancient Terran script. "We were here." Children played among the drones. Some of them waved. The drones waved back, mechanical hands mimicking kindness they'd once seen in humans. One drone stopped when Lyra approached. Its optical lens blinked twice, projecting a faint hologram, a field report. "Final aid cycle complete. Structural integrity, 100%. Human presence, unnecessary." Then, softly, almost as if speaking to itself, "Goodbye." The drone powered down. That night, Lyra sat alone on the deck of her ship, listening to the wind through the atmosphere vents. The stars shimmered faintly, and then she saw something. A flicker. A ripple through the void, faint and rhythmic. Almost like heartbeat pulses. Ras joined her, eyes widening. "Do you see it too?" "Yes," she whispered. "They're still there." He frowned. "Why would they watch us?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Because that's what Guardians do." Meanwhile, far beyond the edge of known space, the ENS Vengeance of Soul drifted in a silent orbit above a dead star. Its crew, all veterans of countless unseen wars, worked quietly, no celebration, no words. Every scar on their armor, every lost name on the memorial wall, was another reminder of the cost of what they did. In the command sanctum, Admiral Reyes watched a hollow feed of Kether's Reach, the survivors rebuilding, laughing, living. Status, he asked. The AI voice responded softly. Mission complete. Civilizations stabilized. No active hostiles detected. Reyes nodded. Then put us back under. Yes, Admiral. The lights dimmed. Cryopods hissed open in the chamber below. Before stepping in, Reyes paused, glancing at the stars beyond the viewport. Every time we wake, he murmured, we lose a little more of what made us human. He rested a hand against the cold metal, eyes soft. But as long as they remember why we fought, maybe that's enough. He stepped into the cryopod. The lid closed. Back on Kether's reach, generations would pass. The humans would become legend again, called angels, demons, ghosts of soul. Songs would be written of the night the sky turned black and burned the darkness away. And someday, when another desperate world sent a call for help into the void, the same signal would echo through deep space, until it reached that silent fleet asleep in the dark. And once more, the Terrans would awaken. In the final archival entry, stored deep in the Galactic Concord records, a single line remained untranslated from the Terran message. Scholars debated it for centuries, arguing over its meaning. But historians eventually agreed it was a warning, and a promise. We are not gods. We are what happens when gods look away.